This week, preparation conclusion, as the Union decides how to fight in 1864, and the rebels prepare themselves for non-stop battle. Then there is politics, the most dangerous game of all. Maneuvers, political poise, and the result of anger and aggression coming together. Prepare a bath, my dear viewer, for we shall all be soon enough bathing in blood. Let's start with Sherman, Major General, Commander of the Military Division of the Mississippi, de facto officer of the West. In consultation with his good friend General Grant, he decided to pursue his opponents to the end of the earth. This requires a vital supply line, and Sherman is a logistical loser. He has no patience for the bureaucratic requirements. The 23rd has him take a blunt force solution to his problem. He needs to double the train rate. He considers doubling the tracks, but has no faith in the trainmen, so instead he seizes many train cars to add to his engines, starting the Nashville populace. Starting with a mere 60 cars a day, he reaches under 93 in the end. There are two ways to cut down on the logistical strain. He has increased the supply rate. On the 25th, he moves to cut down on excess baggage. He reduces tents, removing the comfort that aides, clerks, commanders, and others have grown accustomed to. His headquarters has only one wagon. Each regiment is also given only one wagon. Each man is expected to carry 5 days of bacon, 20 days of bread, and 30 days of salt, sugar, and coffee. The finer things in life. The only other thing else allowed on their person is their rifle and ammunition. He intends for his lines to be defended by the Navy and for his men to worry about nothing other than how to keep the column marching forward. Special Order Number 35 to all his armies. The mission of Sherman is laid plain. Major General George Henry Thomas, with his Army of the Cumberland, is in the center, flanked by the Army of the Ohio under Major General Schofield to the left, and the Army of the Tennessee to the right under Major General James McPherson. Prepare yourselves to break Johnston. 28th has Sherman move to Chattanooga and transfer his headquarters to the field. He is ready. Arkansas, my sister state to the south, has a long and impressive history during this war, most recently marked by the Camden Expedition, where General Frederick Steele has diligently marched to the aid of the Union Army in the Red River Campaign. He has unfortunately let his supply lane be dangerously exposed. Seeing this, orders come down from General Edmund Kirby Smith to General James Fagan, General Joseph O. Shelby, to take advantage of this opportunity. Instead, they plan and execute an ambush on Lieutenant Colonel Francis M. Drake. He is encircled and hit from every side. Valiantly, his men hold only 1,800 brothers to face off against the 8,000 Confederate cavalry. Not surrendering, the load and firing of their pieces continues. Even their batteries engaging the enemy, continually charged and slowly picked off, they are defeated. The worst loss of the Union west of the Mississippi. The cost of 41 KIA, 108 WIA, 144 MIA, the rebels caused 1,600 federal casualties. Afterwards, the rebels pillaged their conquest, taking no care of the wounded and dead, stealing every single piece of clothing they could, personal items, cash, and whatever they please. Also, cruelty, acting towards their prisoners, forcing a partially naked death march. For colored captives, they are presumed massacred. Commander Drake is criticized for the loss, which I find unfair. There is no confusion about the bravery of his force. Even his opponents wrote highly of them.
Men never fought better. They whipped the best infantry regiments that the enemy had, old veterans as they were called. The killed and wounded of Cable's brigade showed how stubborn the enemy was, how reluctantly they gave up the train.
This ends the Camden operation. General Steele is unnerved and ends his campaign, falling back to Little Rock and abandoning Camden. Despite the loss, it saves Steele. What a shame. What a shame. Louisiana, Red River. Union led by the incompetent Major General Nathaniel. Here's a fun fact. He is the only third-party Speaker of the House. Banks has been bested and called the retreat. Despite outnumbering his opponent commander, General Richard Taylor, rebels want to punish and pursue the Federal Army of the Gulf. Rebel cavalry, once under General Thomas Greene, has been transferred to General Hamilton P.B. after the former's death. Likewise, the Northern Cavalry has changed command. Robert.E.Lee is out, but General Richard Arnold now leads the Horse Riders. The Grey Riders of B have successfully placed themselves ahead of Banks' force and dug in at Monnet's Ferry. When Arnold discovers this, instead of charging, the Union cavalry moves up the river, trying to find another crossing, or at least to distract B. Doesn't work. And General William H. Emory, who has taken over the 19th Corps from the wounded Major General William B. Franklin, is confronted with rebel guns. The Brigade under General Burge is the first to wade across the river in an attempt to dislodge B. Our blue boys face horrifying fire, and it isn't until reinforced by the 1st Division of the 19th Corps that they outflank B. Despite winning the battle, the Federals lost 200 men to 50 of the secessionists. You might think with a mere 2,000 Confederate cavalry facing off against 25,000, suffering only a quarter of the casualties, B would be praised, but instead Taylor orders his removal. Banks has reason to be shamed. Admiral Porter, his naval counterpart, is broken. His finest ironclad, the USS Eastport, was first sunk, then raised only to become stuck, requiring its destruction. Like the land commander, I admire Porter and sympathize with his struggle. Furthermore, his river-locked fleet is now stuck in Alexandria, Louisiana. The lowly Colonel, Bailey, plans to get the ships into better waters. Banks, surrendering himself to the fact he has lost, prepares Alexandria as his soldiers ditch their Springfields for shovels. General-in-Chief Grant on the 25th has ordered the end of the Red River. It must feel good given that just a year ago he was being called into a subordinate role to Banks, and now he's bossing Banks around. The next day, the order goes to Washington for the complete evacuation of all federal forces. North Carolina, not D.C. Don't worry. This was brought about by the fall of Plymouth last week. Now for Grant's final action of the week, a big one, his grand plan for the destruction of Robert.E.Lee's army.
By the 27th of April, spring had so far advanced as to justify me in fixing a day for the great move. On that day, Burnside left Annapolis to occupy Meade's position between Bull Run and the Rappahannock. Meade was notified and directed to bring his troops forward to his advance. On the following day, Butler was notified of my intended advance on the 4th of May. He was directed to move the night of the same day and get as far up the James River as possible by daylight. Push on from there to accomplish the task given him. He was also notified that reinforcements were being collected in Washington City. Should be forwarded to him should then be fall back into the trenches at Richmond. Same day, Sherman was directed to get his forces up ready to advance on the 5th. Sigel was in Winchester. Was notified to move in conjunction with the others. This followed by a communication from President Jefferson Davis to General Edmund Kirby Smith. As far as the construction permits, full authority has been given to you to minister to the wants of your department, civil as well as military. Smith commands the Trans-Mississippi Department. It appears that despite all the losses by the rebel armies, well, not this week, but in the past, Davis isn't giving up the West. Now is an excellent time to look at rebel organizations. The 25th has Major General Robert Ransom take over the Department of Richmond. He is good on the defensive and an intelligent choice. Now for the defense of the capital on a political level, Jacob Taunton was Secretary of the Interior for James Buchanan, an Inspector General of the Rebel Army, and an aide at the Battle of Shiloh. His real job is just personal friend to Jefferson Davis, and he is now tasked with a Hail Mary, shoot for the moon job. Go to Canada and try to negotiate peace with the federal delegation. Former Senator from Alabama, Claymont Claiborne Clay, will later join him. Who is the commission from Lincoln? We don't know yet. At this point in the war, it is ubiquitous to think it's as good as over. I mean, 1862 we took New Orleans, the biggest city in the Confederacy. Missouri, Kentucky, and Tennessee stayed in the Republic. West Virginia rejoined the Union, and their entire economy decimated, their armies beaten. On the 29th, via joint resolution, the U.S. Congress raises duty by 50 cents for 2 months. This is how he could still lose. The Northern war machine requires continual finance, brilliantly supplied by Secretary of the Treasury Salmon P. Chase, but this does require congressional approval. Without it, the war is as good as over. The Confederate Congress might be anti or pro-Davis administration, but our Congress is either against or in approval of the war as a whole. With elections coming, can be salvation of the CSA, and the end of the state of the people, by the people. Bickle's time. The 21st has him arrive in Chicago, Illinois, where this series started, where he's invited to the Board of Trade, a pro-union organization raising money for the cause and silencing copperheads. Hearty greetings exhibited by cheers and tumultuous applause. The Peace Democrats intermingled with the poison of the worst separation. Used devoted battalions, skillful generals, and wise statesmanship. I claim to be the hero of no battle. I understand the generous impulses of warm hearts which prompt this commendation. But I also know too well that every battle of this war has had its thousands of heroes, to suffer myself, to expect in particular honor to any engagement in which I have served. He renounces his past as a Democrat, any principle that had governed me in public life. The war has destroyed all partisan ties, and allegiances had merged into higher and broader and greater issues.
This is why he
joined the military service of the United States in the capacity of a private soldier. I do not fear free and frank discussion. Liberty and the cause of my country has nothing to fear from the light of day. Any gentleman in the assemblage who desires to interrogate me, to question the correctness of any position I may assume, or any fact I may state, I should be happy to listen to him, and will answer him to the best of my abilities. Every other rebellion in which history makes record was a rebellion of the many against the few, resistance of the aggrieved against the aggressor, a protest against tyranny and aristocracy in favor of liberty and light. But this rebellion stands forever alone, accursed in history as a rebellion against liberty and right and freedom.
That's where the week ends, and let me explain my hopes and fears. I have faith in Grant, and to a degree Sherman. We have the upper hand, and engaging the enemy seems advantageous, but it must be done correctly. We can't have another Fredericksburg because, anxiously, I say, war weariness has set into my fellow citizens' hearts. Those on the home front must match the army's strength, or freedom might disappear from this land. Hi, it's the entire Civil War Week by Week team here. I just want to say, you might notice we're about to enter May of 1864. And in the past, when, let's just say, events pile on each other, I've taken different moves. For those who have been here for a very long time, they might remember my special report from First Bull Run, or how I broke up the 7 days and released a video each day. Later on, I did events such as singling out battles, most famously at Gettysburg for my feature film-length video. Now, May will see the Overland Campaign and the Atlanta Campaign. I do plan on conducting those weeks normally and regularly. As I'm a college student and not always the most able to keep up with demands, I might have to split them apart, remix. But I do promise that you will see the full month of May, even if I am forced out of those confines. It is not planned. I would like to thank you and see you for the final week of April before I stop sleeping for about 4 weeks.